The real tricky part is when, like, we have a president right now who does not sleep. So it becomes live breaking news, like, okay, I've been on call for the past 2 nights so that if something happens, I have to be up in the studio, and have a show up and running in 20 minutes.
So let me ask you this. This is going to be like the greatest question you've ever got.
I'm sure. They all have been so far.
Undoubtedly so.
Okay.
If you are the news, where do you get your news?
Welcome to Stop Whining About Real Estate. Join us as we chat, sip, banter, and wine with the best in the biz. Grab a glass of your favorite vino, sit back, relax, and let's wine together. Today's guest knows exactly what goes on behind the scenes in media. Erin Parker is an Emmy-nominated TV producer and currently the executive producer, director of programming at Newsmax, where she helps drive the daily narrative millions of Americans consume. She's also a Boca Raton native, a proud mom of 2, and someone who understands just how much the headlines we see can shape the way we think, feel, and act, especially when it comes to buying or selling real estate. Today's episode, we're pulling back the curtain on media, mindset, and the real estate market. We'll talk about who's really controlling the message and how information gets filtered and how that affects consumer behavior, whether you're buying your first home or advising clients every day.
Gina's
Ladies
out,
and gentlemen,
launchers in.
Let's get the show started. I am your host, Emmanuel St. Germain. Our show is called Stop Whining About Real Estate. I got a couple drunk gals on my left and right with us today. We got my cohort, Sarah Birnbaum. Birnbaum, and
he's not drunk.
I know. I'm the one who sounds drunk. I'm not drinking water. And our good friend, on and off the air, Miss Erin Parker, who is a executive producer and director of programming for Newsmax.
You got it.
Super excited. Welcome to have you.
Thank you.
All right. I am super excited to have you here for a whole host of different reasons. One, the 3 of us all hang out, for anybody that doesn't know, like outside of here, and we all have fun and we love to make fun of each other, and mostly me of you two, but it all works really well. You guys take it well.
Yeah.
All right. That being said, what you do is really interesting for a whole host of different reasons. And one of the things that I really wanted to get at was I don't think most people understand what happens with television, what the background is. I know that there's been a few shows, Newsroom, there's been a few different shows that people have gotten to see some sort of insight on. But for anyone who hasn't, walk us through a little bit, a day in the life of what's the back end of television. Like, we only see what is in front of us.
What we present to you.
What is being presented to us.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about the back. Does a, big story come on? Do you guys have a meeting? Do you talk about it? Who's writing what is being read? Like, tell us a little bit of what you're allowed to tell us.
Yeah. Full transparency. But, what I do now, what I did in my past, I came from the talk show background, and now I do news. But in my talk show days, I did led up to doing some news stuff. We can get to that later. But
so both fiction. Just kidding.
Yes, if you watch CNN.
Shots fired.
There we go. So if for a show, for example, they meet. If your show's on from noon to 2, you come in at 6 o'clock and you meet. And, we all know there's a handful of stories every single day that are the main stories. Right now, what is it? It's the New York City mayor. It's Israel, Iran. It's Trump going to NATO. Basically, if you do follow the news or if you live under a rock, you may not know.
She pointed at me.
But, so you come in and our anchors also have a lot of input also because they're very, well-versed in all of this. So you come in, you talk about the topics, kind of like a round table. What do you want to talk about? What are the exciting stories? Did you see what happened last night on, some primetime talk show? And then you figure out how the dynamic, how you want your show to go, how you want it to unfold. And then everybody kind of goes back and you have anywhere from 4 producers to 7 producers per show. And then, and so what they do is they break it into segments, which every segment is before a commercial break. So if you want your first block of your show needs to be something super, okay, what are we going to draw people in? Your best guest, your best reporters, all of that. So then you pick out like sound bites. And then what the producers' jobs are is they go into what we call a rundown so that everybody can see what they're doing, and you pull sound bites. So you have to go through and they have to listen and they have to cut them and they have to, it gets easier as the day goes on because a lot of the shows will use similar sound so they can pull. And so the producers go back, they write their blocks, you write it, but it's a different kind of writing. So you have to know your anchor very well and how they deliver things. You know, it's not writing an essay. People who write for magazines, they don't generally make great television writers because it's very short, concise. So, and the anchors all read it over before they go on. And, you know, so then when it gets to delivery time and we go in the control room for the live show, you have your technical director who sits and punches the show. You have your executive producer who's just kind of, 30,000 feet, making sure that everything.
Coffees are delivered,
back massages are given. And, so everybody has their own position. And then they'll call out like, okay, we're going to this soundbite, and the director has to be on his toes ready. We have somebody who's running the teleprompter so that the anchor can read the teleprompter. We have somebody who,
Ron Burgundy.
Like Ron Burgundy. I think Emmanuel would make a great Ron Burgundy.
So do I.
You just want to see me with a mustache.
I just want you to see you read whatever's on the tele.
I can grow them, but it doesn't get very dark, so it's like
pointless.
It looks kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
Well, I think all three of us have the same color mustache, don't we?
No, mine's a little darker. Mine comes in a little darker, but that's okay.
All right. Okay. So all right. So let's go back.
Wait, this all happens day of?
Oh yeah.
Got it. Well, that's where I was going. So like the show. So let's use a specific time slot.
12 to 2.
So on a 12 to 2, that's where we're going live. The show is live
from 12 to 2. That particular show.
All of us, let's assume we're all part of this team. Mm-hmm. We arrive at what time to start this prep
6 a.m.
Okay, so we've got a 6-hour prep time for a 2-hour race show in this case. Mm-hmm. Okay, very cool. So I didn't realize there was that much additional effort. It's very similar to how long Sarah preps for these shows, but not so much how much I prepare.
You're just a natural. Walk right on in and deliver.
No, but it is. It's pretty impressive. I didn't realize that they get there. Even the anchors or whoever, they get there that early and they're that involved.
Most of them. They're that involved. Whether they get there, the anchors have to go, especially if it's a female anchor. They're in hair and makeup for
a while,
like an hour or so.
No joke.
But that's when you hope they're reading over. That's right before they go on. So you're hoping they're reading over their scripts. They're, having their questions. They're changing last minute stuff. The real tricky part is when, like, we have a president right now who does not sleep. So it becomes live breaking news. Like, okay, I've been on call for the past 2 nights so that if something happens, I have to be up in the studio, and have a show up and running in 20 minutes.
So let me ask you this. This is going to be like the greatest question you've ever got.
I'm sure. They all have been so far.
Undoubtedly so.
Okay.
If you are the news, where do you get your news?
We have constant emails from the Associated Press.
Well, so we do.
Because we also have a president right now who's using X, and for the first time, by the way, I've only been on this thing for 30 days.
X,
and
were you on Twitter before that?
No, none of it. No, I wasn't really. I know it's the same thing, but what I'm getting at, my point is I don't go on there to look. Right. I get the little updates, which I like.
Yes.
I'll get a little update from that's constant little updates.
Right.
And I think that, that's, first of all, that's a whole separate question we can talk about, because the evolution of news because of information and the internet, that has to have changed the entire framework 100%. Of TV. But let's go, before you answer that piece, go to the original piece. This is no joke. It's kind of it's a dumb, naive question.
No, it's not at all, because it's so true. Where do you get your news? Why believe me?
You are the news, right?
Right.
So a handful of ways. Also, just to your point about X, Twitter, that's why President Trump has now allowed in these independent journalists because they are just independent and, they'll be places and they'll go to the border. Not, when I send somebody into a war zone, I have wartime reporters. You have to have insurance on them. You have to have this. Some of these people are just doing it on their own. They're going to LA to report on the riots and all that stuff. So the original question of how do we get our news, there's a handful of ways, right? So, I'm in touch with the White House. So I get it directly. We have sources there that will call us and give us a heads up of things that might happen. Congressmen, Senate, go ahead.
How come you don't hook your friends up with the White House?
You've never been to D.C. You can't even...
I just am curious what you would like from the White House.
A private tour would be amazing. Let's start there. You know what I mean?
We'll
Look
put
at how excited he is
we'll
right
put
now.
that request
How about,
in.
no, can we go to the, can you invite me to the dinner? What's the big
Correspondence
dinner?
Dinner?
Yes.
That already happened.
Yeah, but there's one next year.
2026. I'll see what I
let's
can do.
it.
I don't even get invited to that. I'm not a correspondent, and neither are you.
Define what a correspondent is.
You're on air and you report the news.
Okay, well, we're a correspondent
He's going to be like, I'm going to be there tomorrow to sit in the anchor chair and report the news.
She's got to...
But they have comedians and famous people, so it's not just them.
Well, they're on air corresponding things.
But you're not a comedian or a famous person.
But we are on air.
We are on air.
But what air?
Technically, if we went live, would that count?
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean...
All right, so anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
So that's a handful of ways, right? So, and we have senators, congressmen, everybody that we're in touch with. So we constantly are getting press releases. We're constantly in touch with them, constantly in touch with, like Caroline Leavitt in the White House. We have this, this source called Data Miner going even more locally. So you think about like, how do you know that there's a school shooting or something like that's happening, and how are you going to do it first? All these local affiliates, we use something called Data Miner. So it's stuff that just comes through every day. I probably see 20 schools a day that go on lockdown.
Yeah.
And then
it's pulling from like a Facebook that is that school's community Facebook or neighborhood chat
news,
or whatever.
It's usually from like the local news places.
Yep.
People like Fox and all, they have affiliates everywhere. We don't have affiliates. We are Newsmax. So we don't have like Fox has, you think about Fox West Palm, Fox Miami. So they are tapped into a lot of other markets. And so Data Miner essentially pulls from all that, and then we get our sources from there. But we have a news desk in New York that we don't single source anything.
Filter.
They have to make sure, like, to fact check, call the police department, call that. And then it's just a race for, you want to be accurate, not necessarily first. But if you're first and accurate,
you win.
You win. So that's kind of, our goal.
Correct.
So, and your banners have to be correct. So do you want me, should I tell, is this, so, how you see the lower thirds that go up?
I know the banner story, but our audience doesn't.
Which one? There's plenty.
Well, I thought we were talking about the...
Ted Cruz.
Oh, no. I thought, what was the airplane one?
No, it was the raw dog one.
Yeah, that one.
Okay. Well, we don't need to go there.
Wait, what's the airplane one?
There's no airplane one. He said airplane.
Oh.
What's
the thing on the airplane where you don't move?
I'm not saying it.
What? Wait, what?
Well, it's like the word you just said.
Raw dog?
Yes. So one of my anchors, that's a different story, was like, oh, I didn't know what this meant. But apparently there's another meaning. And so
Janine, do you guys know what this is? So raw dog growing up in our world means you don't wear a condom. That's what we think of a raw
they
dog.
both knew this. Yes, they're fully aware.
Okay. Apparently the new age version.
Well, there was another version, and basically people were being like,
meant improvise.
Yeah, but I think
it meant doing. It meant doing
You didn't know this version.
Yes.
So Erin didn't know what we just discussed as raw dog. They were using
essentially what I was told it meant. And what it does mean to this new generation, people were doing it, putting it on Instagram. And it's like, they're like, hi, I'm raw dogging on an airplane, which means they're just like sitting and staring forward.
They're not using
They're doing
their
nothing.
earbuds.
They're not watching a movie. They're not listening to music. They're not reading
meditating.
a book.
Yeah, they're doing nothing. So the whole political thing became Kamala Harris is raw dogging, right? Like doing nothing or something. So I had an anchor come into my office and say, hey, I think, and because he knew, like he was going to he just was going to say, he's like, he's like, oh, I have this really funny banner. It's going to say Kamala Harris raw dogging at the White House. And I'm like, oh, that's so funny. I'm like, well, first of all, I was like, well, what does that even mean? And he's like, when people are on an airplane and they're sitting there and they're staring, they're doing nothing. I was like, that is hysterical. Totally. I said, totally use it. So my executive in New York all of a sudden calls and goes, get that banner down. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? And he's like, raw dogging? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, and then he's like, I don't have time for this. And I was like, oh my God. So I was like, you guys, and now I'm in the middle of the newsroom. And I'm like, okay, guys, what am I not getting? Why can't John say Kamala Harris raw dogging at the White House? And they're like, are you kidding? And I was like, no. So it went up on air, national TV, that Kamala Harris was raw dogging at the White House.
So now you see why we have so much fun. We go to brunch and it's me and these two blondes.
One is a little bit more savvy than the other with,
street terms.
And the other. So then I was like, oh, I got it. Yeah. And so then I stomped into the anchor's office. I was like, you knew what you were doing. And he was like, what?
Sure did.
He's like, but it's still like funny and makes sense. And I go, oh, I can't believe you. And I was like, never again. So now every time he comes to my office to like run something by me, I'm like, there's definitely an ulterior motive here.
All right. Well, I think that's an awesome, funny story. What are so let's talk about, because at some point we got to bring this back to real estate. That's what we're here for.
Oh, yeah.
So what I want to talk about is your ability to control information, right? And we just kind of set up, you mentioned how it works in terms of a news story, the background, how it all comes in. Mm-hmm. Well, so at the same token, what I'm hearing is that all stations, and I'm so this is a question. Is this more or less how it happens in all news channels?
Well, you're going to get my political skew on it, which is
I meant the process. Sorry, not your opinion, just a process.
Not even an opinion. Yes, probably, but how they choose to deliver it is another story.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
But in general, it doesn't matter where we're talking, they're all going to kind of do it. All right. So now, in terms of opinion, this is where I want to get to, because now it's not about filtering, but it's about understanding your audience. Mm-hmm. No different than in any sales transaction. My job is not to alienate my customer. My job is to speak to my customer, get them excited about my product, my service, just as yours is, right? How does it talk about talk about the psychology? Do you guys study your demographics, and do you know and understand everything? How much information do you know about your audience?
A ton. So Nielsen ratings, right? So Nielsen is in however many households. So
this is Leslie Nielsen, the actor.
No. I don't even know what the first name. So Nielsen
ratings to be a Nielsen rater.
Yeah, and so it's so funny because the funny story, my parents keep their TV on because they think that they're growing my audience. And I'm like, Mom, you're not being tracked. So thank you, but you're just really making your electric bill go up.
That's adorable.
But so, we have a department that is just for ratings. Yeah. And with cable, which is Newsmax 1 and 1, which was our original station, and 2 is streaming, which is very difficult. We haven't really come up with a very decisive way to track those numbers. I mean, we can, I can be looking at YouTube when we're live, and I can see that, okay, we have 20,000 views. If I am on a rally, it goes up to 150,000. You can see it at the time, but it's harder to track that. But with the Nielsen ratings, we get it. And it goes, you can drill down to
their spending habits.
You can
where they eat, where
they're in household incomes, age demographic, everything, how many children they have. So, where they live, where we're most
where they shop, where they eat, where they grocery
everything.
Shop, all of it.
Okay, so that's all the background stuff. How do you determine? Okay, so one of the things that President Trump does a really good job on is they test. So this is all my understanding of it. So I could be wrong, but my understanding of a lot of it is that he'll test a word out. Mm-hmm. And based on how that word reacts, he doubles, triples, quadruples, quintuplets down on that word when
Like the
it's
F word recently?
whatever it is. No, just all of it. Like some of it could be positive, some of it could be negative. Like he has his version of communication, whether you like it or not.
Can you give me an example?
Any of it, like no, because I don't really listen to enough of.
So,
like, specifically
for
how he
example,
talks.
now at the end of anything that he writes, it says, "Thank you for your attention to this matter." Like, I mean, he does things, and it's like, and it's thank you for any email, any whatever. It's thank you for your attention to this matter.
I'm talking
Twitter.
about like anything in general that there's so many things that he would
Like
say.
you're saying he does stuff on purpose to go viral.
Yes.
Or he'll figure out what went viral and then
I don't
reuse
think
it
he
over and
generally
over.
means to do that. I think that's his personality, right? I think that.
Ooh, I think he's smarter than that. I think
Well,
he's
yeah.
I think he's testing words, and when he says a word that resonates and it went really well, then he has his
Like the big,
his
beautiful
speech
bill. Beautiful, huge.
all of it huge. Yes, he's constantly using. Yes, exactly. You know, like it's the
fired.
largest you've ever seen. Like he knows what's working, and this is where he's really smart in terms of working with his speech writers to get back, because literally, like, and to your point about writing and understanding TV writing, like. It's not him writing his speeches, but when he read the what was the one on Tuesdays?
Which one?
Well, I think he does a lot of things
annual
off
one.
the
But
cuff
anyways,
too,
like
though.
he goes there and when he's reading his own speeches, it literally sounds like he wrote it. Like they do a great job of keeping within his tone, and it's not just.
I think with him though, because
he's almost off cuff kind of person.
but he's somebody who it could, even if it's written, he could just go if he finds a steer for himself and that's where he wants to go.
He's even
You can
said,
be like,
though-
this is going to be a 90-minute speech or this is going to be a 60. You never know. He's
Even said, like I've heard him before, he'll say, I know that I sometimes go off but I'll come back to the
Always.
point. I'll come back there. I'm going to get back there. Hold on a second. I'm explaining something. Like he'll even say that in the middle of his speech.
Oh, for sure. Like he'll be like, and when, this happened, he's like, and look, here's the family right here. Stand up, family. And then he talks about the kids and he goes off and then he's here. But then he always reins it in and brings it back. Yes. So he does. So he knows his audience. He knows how to work up the other side really well. But
Better than anything I've ever seen.
The original point, which I even forgot myself, was about the flow of information. And I guess like in real estate, right? Because I want to bring it back to real estate. At the end of the day, so much happens in our financial markets that is based on fear and momentum and buyer confidence. And, like if literally the last, and I'll give you an example, in the financial markets, since the Ukraine war, this financial economy has literally not stifled one bit. In the past, okay, and I've been doing this for 20-something years, the tiniest fraction, I started really young, the tiniest fraction of newsworthy items like that would rock the bond markets, the yield and the 10-year and the stock market. They would get adjusted. And now we've become so
Sensitive?
No, opposite. Now we've become so dull to whatever the noise out there. Nothing happens. Like literally, like I'm telling you, like Saturday we bombed things in Iran. Okay, what happened to the markets? Nothing.
But you're
How'd
still
the stock
saying that
market open Monday morning? Nothing. I'm just telling you
I think
that
it
we
just
are
depends, right? I feel like
unfazed.
that maybe it depends on what you're looking at, right? I think the stock market shot through the roof, didn't it? And it was like, because I think a lot of people who are in oil and Bitcoin and all of those things, I think it was, the markets actually were up like 500, I think.
Right, but my point is that typically at the start of a war outside of defense contracts, most things go down.
Yeah.
Right. And so the markets are reacting in opposite fashion that they should, in theory. Right. And I guess what I'm getting at is, all right, from a news perspective, you have an ability to control information. You have an ability to put out what you want to put out. We as an audience have the power of listening to whatever we want. You know, the beauty of this country is we have free choice. You can listen to CNN if you like, MSNBC. You can listen to Fox, to Newsmax. It doesn't matter. You get to pick your choice and work with it. That being said, whatever you're listening to is more than likely just already going to corroborate what your own sentiments and thoughts are. Narrative, perfect, even better word.
Thank you.
So in a non-political subject such as real estate, right? How do we decipher? How do I get to control the narrative? Right?
Come work at Newsmax.
There it is.
No, because if you think about it,
Well, see,
who else is doing it?
I'm glad you're saying this because everybody likes to say, oh, you're so far right or they're so far left and they're so far. And for me,
you hear what you want to hear.
You hear what you want to hear. But I'm a big believer in people will just automatically, if I say something, they'll be like, oh, it's just because you're a Republican. Oh, it's just because you're this. And when in reality, it's like, don't insult my intelligence, first of all. I'm actually reading documents that are coming through and I'm actually talking to people and I'm presenting facts. Now, however you choose
to interpret
my facts, that's entirely up to you. So I can put out that, we bombed Iran, we hit their nuclear facility, these are the photo, but you're going to have a handful of people, more than a handful, who are going to go down a conspiracy rabbit hole and be like, this is just a distraction. So for the Israel-Gaza saga. And you're like, what are you talking about? So it just depends what you decide to interpret, how you decide to interpret facts. And knowing enough to say, okay, which news outlet am I going to watch? And I guess everybody picks what, you do get to decide your narrative, to your point. You do get to choose what you're listening to. So you are driving your narrative. So it's just a matter of who you want to believe is telling you facts and how you want to interpret them.
He wants to know where the news station is that's forcing everybody to believe that buying right now is the best time to
You're saying, I think you're meaning it. I think
you're saying that people are not buying right now. And why is that? Is that a media thing?
No,
is that
Not at all. I think the market is actually very good right now, and I think people are actually people have gotten used to interest rates.
I guess have you seen it? What have you seen in last? Because we all know COVID, right? And here in Florida, everything just went up because everybody was like, get me to a place where I can my kids can go to a school without. How did that affect real estate for you?
Perfect. So COVID is a perfect example to how the media impacts life and things of that nature, right? So the messaging that happens now, this is not in agreement one or the other, because we're all in agreement politically, the three of us and the five of us in this room. But Fauci, right, and everything what we heard and were promised and pushed down, now all of a sudden so for me, although scientifically, in hindsight, I wish that hadn't happened. But that being said, at the same token, in a business sense, because of all this fear-mongering that happens, all of a sudden we had our houses, all of us, double in value because every New Yorker that was in a high rise said, holy smokes, why am I staying there? I can go, and
walk on a beach.
Let's go walk on the beach and we can go to Florida. On top of it, they have a Republican governor who's open for business and we don't have to stay cooped up.
But in the same token, we all sort of bought into it, right? The COVID thing, the COVID theory. And we were like, oh God, we better get vaccinated. We better stay away from our family members because the media is telling us
COVID happened, people died of COVID. So it's not that it's not to take away from COVID. It's the untested, uncharted
but there's still people
process
walking around
to
believing
forcing
what
people
Fauci did
about the vaccine.
Right.
Like I don't think anyone, I don't know this, but I would imagine most people don't doubt COVID was something that was legitimate. It's their reaction to it and how they handled it did not give a whole lot of comfort for the rest of us.
Right.
That when the next thing, here's where they screwed themselves. You had one shot, you had everybody believe you, and if it happens again in our lifetime,
Nobody will
you
believe
got
you.
half the country who's not going to do a damn thing.
I will go down the aisle of the grocery store that I want.
And people, no, because literally
The way that I want.
That's, you don't have to be a Democrat or Republican. You have screwed yourself because one whole half of the population, and I bet you there's still a lot of Democrats that also are pissed about how it went through, like now wouldn't follow through and do what they were told.
And now
Like,
people are
They'll never-
dead and dying from the vaccine, and there's all kinds of studies that are coming out.
that what?
People are dying from the vaccine, especially in the ages of young males.
All right.
You better be careful. You're not that young.
How many? Never mind.
I mean, I don't want
Pillar
to
of
make
health.
it about COVID. I don't want to make it
No, I don't either. I don't want to make it political. I'm actually like genuinely saying. So for you, how did like mortgages, how did real estate do when
the
that
past,
fear mongering or whatever happened?
We
and,
used to crush it.
right.
So we used to always say bad news for everyone else
It's good
means
news for us.
money and good news
Right.
for
War,
us.
anything.
War, like sorry for you guys, but great for real estate.
And why do
Sorry
you
for
think that
guys,
is?
Because that's how markets worked.
Okay.
Until now.
Markets were until Ukraine. Ukraine is the first time that we've had a war in the world that somehow our financial markets didn't get impacted. Everything else, look at COVID. Like interest rates dropped to 2-something% because of it, right? We're so used to that. And since then, it just doesn't move. Like they've figured the stock market goes, oh, we've had tariffs. Okay, what happened to the stock market? For what, a month they went down? And then now it's back higher. It's the same or higher than it was before.
Yeah.
Right? Like the ability for this, I guess I would say the resiliency of
Recession
this
proof.
market, but I don't think we're recession proof. We're stuck in this weird position that, like, I don't know if people, like, it's not, we were just talking off air, renting a house these days.
It's so much cheaper.
No.
Oh, really?
It's insane.
It's crazy.
You can't find anything.
Well, I guess
buying
I'm
a house
looking
is
at it from
expensive, too.
renting like
Compared
3
to
years ago as to now. It's gone down, I think. From like 3.
I think there's a lack of inventory. I mean, I just did a search because I was just putzing around and I like wanted to see like what's out there. And like, in downtown Delray where I live, within a mile circumference, there was one house in the like a decent
To
price
rent.
point.
But like, what about for sale? Because I've seen a lot for sale.
Everything's overpriced.
Yeah.
Like people.
Because
are-
everybody wants their COVID pricing.
Well, everybody wants to
Make money.
Make money. I get it. It's just the world has gotten expensive.
And I think right now, a lot of things, in talking to a financial advisor recently, it was like, just make sure you're aware that right now things are going to be very expensive.
So listen, if it doesn't go down, it doesn't go back, then it is what it is. Like we just got to get used to this new norm.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to cost $30 for a martini.
Oh, they're out for a drink, back home.
So how did you get into news? So like are we allowed to say the who you worked for before now?
Yeah, I started, I'll just run you really quick through it. I started at Fox I was in news. I was doing overnights right out of college. And then I got a call from a friend who was a production assistant for Fox Television Studios doing sitcoms and stuff. So she's like, hi, want to move out to LA? So I was like, yep, packed my bags, out I went.
You grew up locally here. You're
Boca.
South Florida. Okay. So we got Hollywood, Boca Raton.
Boca Raton, Hollywood.
All right, perfect.
I'm very international and national. So I go out to LA. I'm a production assistant. I'm getting people coffee. But I'm like, I'm going to the Viper room at night with like watching River Phoenix, like OD in the back. It was a fun time of my life, but it was also, then I missed my family. It was West Coast, East Coast. So I moved back, left all of that. I worked for some shows like the Hughleys, Roswell. I did a bunch of different shows. Then I got back in. I decided I wanted to move to Chicago. So I told my parents I was moving to Chicago. So I got in my car. They're like, well, you have a gas card and that's it. So fine. I ended up running into somebody in Chicago that I knew that went to St. Andrews with me. Moved in with her. I got a job at the Jenny Jones show in Chicago as an associate producer. I think I lied on my resume, to be honest. I was like, yeah, I did all these great things. And then the person who's interviewing me, she happened to like me. So she's like, listen, just go in there and say you'll work till like all hours of the night. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I'll work however long you want. Well, that was a mistake because I literally worked. And this is before cell phones. So I'm having people, and you know the types of people that go on these shows. It's not like me and you. It's like I was doing shows called Chest is Best.
What?
My guest was Norma Stitz. That was her name. I mean, I'm duct taping their breasts in like in the green room. I'm like amping people up. I'm like, oh, you should hear what this one said about you. And then I'd run to the other green room and I'm like, oh, you should hear what this one.
That's why you're so good at this.
Oh, it was so terrible. Like there's a special place in hell for me. And so whatever. So I got that job. I did that for a while.
That's a good name for a book, by the way.
Norma Stitz?
No.
Oh.
There's a special place in hell for me.
Yeah, that I should write it.
I think it's a good name for a book. Anyways,
Sure is.
go.
And so I literally worked. Like I had a rheumatic fever one time and I was like freezing cold out and I was like shivering on my couch because I was like sleep there because I was like, oh, this guest isn't coming. They're like, too bad. You have a show in the morning. And so I'm like, okay, but they're in Detroit and nobody had cell phones. So I'd call a Domino's Pizza to go to their house with a note. And I'm like, I swear this is Jenny Jones' show. Like, we'll pay you back. To take a note to this person, to give them money, to call from a payphone, to get them to the studio. It was crazy. I mean, I had to get people teeth. I had to be we had a dentist on call when they would show up. So they had like no teeth. It was just, I mean, it was hilarious.
Duct tape.
Yeah, I did it all. So then from there, I kind of, it's terrible, right? I've seen it all. So then I got out of TV for a little bit, did marketing communication, and then I moved out to LA. I actually just went there to visit my friend Margie and my friend who I knew from, I had a brief stint where we just launched a bunch of pilot shows, reality pilot shows. You know, I did before it became, it wasn't The Big House, it was called.
Was that like the prequel to Real World?
Yeah, something like that. I think Real World had already happened, but it was
she's not that
Big
old.
Brother. No, it was
Real
like,
World is old.
I think what it eventually became was Big Brother. So it was essentially I'm up all night and there are all you do is like stock the fridge with like loads of booze and all that stuff.
What do you think is America, the world's, I'm going to say America because I don't know the
fixation
world.
about this stuff?
Obsession with reality TV.
Okay, so I can say from a personal experience, because it's all I watch,
It's an escape.
yeah, I don't have to, it's like, okay, this is hilarious. Like watching Teen Mom, I'm like, God, my life is fucking amazing. Like, you know what I mean? You watch these shows or
That's the one you watch in order to make yourself feel better about yourself.
yeah, because watch The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, you're like, shit, I am poor. But then you're like, oh God, definitely wouldn't date that guy no matter how much money he had. Yeah, so I think like that's the whole thing. But so whatever. So I did a brief stint kind of doing that stuff. Then I'd gone out to LA to visit a friend and another friend was like, oh, I see you're in LA. She's like, any chance you want a job at Dr. Phil? And I was like, what? I'm like, actually, I need a job. So I went in and she goes, listen, don't do your whole thing where you dress up in a fucking suit and like come in like it's production. Like just come in your jeans. I came in a suit.
Is he a real doctor?
Phil? Yeah.
Oh.
He's a forensic behavioral psychologist and a forensic psychologist, behavioral and forensic psychologist. But when you are on air, you can't practice. So you have to give up your license.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So the doctor on CNN, what's his
Like
name?
Dr. Oz.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's
All
different.
those.
If it's news and you're doing like news updates and that kind of
Wasn't
stuff,
there a doctor
that's
show?
different. Well, Dr. Oz, they did like a behind the scenes stuff. I don't know about him. And
there was a
also
cute doctor on that
Dr.
show.
Drew. And a lot of those, no, that's just like violating HIPAA, right? Like even though,
that's true.
I mean, they can't like go on all of these therapists you see on like the rehab shows and all of that.
Got it.
I think
Okay,
if they're
cool.
whatever.
So, all right,
so whatever. So then now I get the job and they're like, okay. And I worked for this one producer who was a lunatic. And I literally, after being there, I was basically sent there to like right her ship.
How many because this is great. How many producers are on a show? Like when we watch a movie, all right? I watch a movie.
That's a totally different ballgame.
Is it? Okay.
Go stick with TV.
But I can.
I don't watch, there's no credits on TV. If there is, I don't see them. On a movie.
Definitely not on news, but like Housewives.
But that's what I'm getting at. Well, I don't watch that stuff. So for me, that's what I'm saying. Like when we watch a movie, I mean, I feel like there's 50 producers sometimes.
Well, there are.
Everybody gets their name in there.
That's essentially like if you give somebody an executive producer title, right? Like, so if you watch The Kardashians, I know you don't watch it. If you watch The Kardashians, you'll see executive producer Kendall Jenner, executive producer Kim Kardashian. It just means that they get to tell you, I don't want that on TV.
Got it.
So it gives them, it bumps you to a different pay scale.
Do you call yourselves EPs?
EPs.
Yes.
Erin Parkers.
Yep.
So executive producer in that term, a lot of times when you see like, especially if they're in the movie, if they're an executive producer, it means they're probably screening it and finding out what they will allow on, what they won't allow on. They get a say so.
Okay.
It's like you with this podcast. So you make yourself look really good.
No, but like that's not true because I don't even, have I told you this? I think I've only listened to one episode, which is the one when my dad was on and because my mom wanted to hear it. Like I never listen.
It's funny. I don't think I've watched like my Dr. Phil episodes. Like I don't think I've watched unless it like came on and my parents were watching it.
I mean, do musicians listen to themselves? Like if you have
a lot of movie stars don't watch the movie that they're in. They don't like to.
Well, I've already done it, right? So for
I feel like it's arrogant too. I understand
know.
why you would. It could be constructive criticism.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you were going to talk about Sarah.
I've gotten so good at the podcast.
She doesn't need any improvement.
I think
Parker.
No, because the problem is that like I don't want to second guess it. I want to just go with it. I want to have fun, and I don't care if I said something stupid. And if
so, do you read the comments then, or
I don't? I mean,
do people comment?
They do.
We have someone who handles that for us. We just get overloaded with comments and DMs. So they're
like, "Who is that hot guy? I want to date him." Is that what they say? I'm assuming that's what's in your head that they say.
Yes. I think that's
you don't read the comments.
I think that's what they meant to say.
Oh,
they just Chat GPT got it wrong.
Oh, I see. Yeah, but like on something like Dr. Phil, so we would.
You see how she's a producer? She brings it back. She controls the flow. You'd be a good talk show host.
I know.
Or whatever this is, podcast.
Oh, my favorite about Erin, probably, and we can bring it back to what we were talking about, but you put Erin in any room with people, she will start digging with them, and she will dig and question and dig and question and dig, and it's the most magical thing I've ever seen.
But like sometimes I don't even have to dig. One time I was at a funeral, like my ex's, like, I don't know, someone in his family died and we were still dating. And I'm standing in line for the buffet at the church. And all of a sudden, this woman just like turns around and she's like, so I have cancer. And I was like, are you talking to me? And she was like, yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry. I just found out. And I was like, oh, my God. And then now I know the whole lady's life story. And I'm just trying to get like brisket.
And you're sitting down at the table with her. She's crying on your shoulder.
And then Derek just like laughs now.
You have lunch with her every month now.
Derek's like, I kind of just want to do like a YouTube and then just hit play. And then
well, it's almost like, hey, listen, confessions over that way.
Yeah. But let's bring it back. No, so on Dr. Phil, what they do is, right, we produce 6 shows a week. We only tape 3 days. And it was always with a live studio audience. And
that's a lift.
Oh, and it's like hundreds of people have flown to LA and they have these tickets. So if your show is like falling apart, you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? But we would have, the EPs, you have the EP who's over all of it. You have Phil, then you have the EP, then you'd have like your supervising producer, and then producer, AP, PA. But then on top of that, that's just for your show. Then we have script supervisors. Like once it makes it to we're about to go and do the show that morning, the script supervisor goes in because this is all live to tape. It's not real. It's not live TV like we do in news. It could take an hour and a half, but you've got to cut that down. An hour of TV is really like what? Could be 45, 15 content.
Right.
So it has to all be cut down to that for your commercial breaks. But there are probably 9 different producing teams. So once you're done with your show that week, you're on to the next one, but you may not have a show for 2 weeks. You've just banked 6, but each producing team. So you have 9 to 10 producing teams that work on shows.
So where do the ideas come from?
So for a lot of the talk shows, you have people who email. They just email in and they're like, here's my fucked up life. And can I be on your show?
Catch me outside.
And cash me outside. And the hard...
What?
She was one of the
raw
most
dogging.
famous.
This is his raw dogging moment.
It's out right now. You know that, right?
Does she?
She did. She bought a
could be your
house in
neighbor.
Boca for her mom, and then she
Who we
just
talking about?
sold it.
She was a guest on the show. I think she was like 15 or she was young at the time. And she
was
was
a
like
gem.
real disrespectful. And her mom brought her on the
Which show?
Dr. Phil.
Got it.
And
Her father was like a sheriff in Broward County.
and the mom wanted to like get control of the daughter and like make her behave and stop being so unruly, we'll call it. And
Like steal her credit cards and beat her up. You know, like she just didn't want that to happen.
the daughter
anymore.
did to the mom. And
Yeah.
she like had a lot of boyfriends and all kinds of stuff. And her tagline throughout the show is, and she was yelling at the audience. The audience was like, you need to be more respectful to your mom. And she's like, I don't care what you have to say to me, how? And she was like,
Catch me outside.
catch me outside, catch me outside. And Dr.
Cash
Phil's
me
like,
outside. How about that? That's what she said to this one guy.
Dr. Phil at one point, he was like, catch me outside. What does that exactly mean? She's like, yeah, catch me outside these parts, catch me outside. And then it turned into a rap. And then she made
Well,
a
I mean, it
song,
turned into like
and
Tom Brady was like writing it. And then like you would drive by a church and on their thing it would say, cash me at church. How about that? Like it just became this like phenomenon.
Then she had a song and a music video.
How long ago is it?
And then she made literally $1 million in one day on OnlyFans.
It's like the Hot Tua girl.
Yes.
Got it.
There we go.
What was the Hot Tour girl? Tell us about that, Sarah.
Why don't
You're
you tell
special.
us about that, Daniel?
I'm not the one who brought it up.
I was trying to make it relative to you because I knew you'd understand that reference.
Yeah.
I've never been on OnlyFans.
He is just an Only fan.
Got it.
I haven't. I've never been on the website.
Wow.
I don't think I have either.
Yeah. All right, listen, more power to people. Like, you make money however you need to make money.
Right. Gosh. I mean, and you
Make
know.
$1 million a day, I mean.
But like Denise Richards is
minute.
on it and she doesn't really do anything. People just like pay because they want to see her and they think it's like, oh, private content
I mean, she's not exactly young anymore.
at all. She's like your age.
No, she's closer to yours, I think.
Waiting for that. Yeah. So anyway, so that's my story. Then I was at Dr. Phil. And so while I was at Dr. Phil and I had the crazy producer, I was like, I'm not working with this girl anymore. Not happening. And they were like, well, HR wants you guys to meet together. I said, well, that's not happening either. So you can either move my team or I'm just leaving. So they were like, great. Well, why don't we put you on the news team? But news for a talk show is way different than news. Like, right, I'm going for exclusive interviews, doing stories that do sweeps. So I'm on the road. You know, I was on the road all the time, going and bellying up at a place, going through somebody's like backyard, the bushes, knocking on meth doors and being like, I want to do an interview. Like at one point I'm like sitting in
That
someone's
sounds dangerous.
someone's trailer. I think somebody asked me to go buy a douche for them once at Walmart. I was like, okay, where's my life gone? But I always got the interview, so I didn't care. And so, you know, I would sit in trial after trial. I did the Jodi Arias case. We did, you know, the Vanderbilt rape stories. And I spent a lot of time in prison. And
Visiting.
so essentially what we would do is we would go get the interview these people before Phil would fly in and do the on-air interview. You know, we'd be like, here's the deal, here's this is what they're doing.
How many years did you work for Dr. Phil?
I think almost 5.
Okay. So you finished up. So
Yep,
let's
and then I
fast
had
forward.
babies, and then I decided I was going to not work, and then I decided, okay, let me have my own production company. And I did a couple things with that because I had a lot of contacts. And then I started doing producing true crime podcasts and things like that. And then COVID happened and I had kids. And then my son was in kindergarten and I became a kindergarten teacher on accident because he couldn't go to school. And then I was like, I have got to get out of this house. Newsmax saw me on LinkedIn, I think, and they called me. And it happens, we have offices here. So I went in, I'm like, do I have to wear a mask? Can I come to the office every day? I'll take the job. So, and then I asked them, I said, I'm a talk show producer. Like, what would I have? And they were, at that point, Newsmax was just like getting its legs 5 years ago. So they were like, well, it's a daytime slot. Like I think they thought maybe we could tweak it and do this, do that. So I got into news and I'm doing this. And they're like, okay, you have to line the show and time it. I'm like, what does that mean? And it's live. So now they're telling me, I go, well, okay, how many minutes of content? They're like, what do you mean? Like everybody was just kind of learning.
Right.
So then that's 5 years ago. Fast forward, here we are now. We've launched a second network. We're public and, just presenting facts.
Very cool. So
Back to real estate.
what happened with the Matt Lauer button?
I can't believe we're doing this.
Because
Emmanuel jokes about that button.
Have you ever watched The Morning Show?
That's
with
the show
Jennifer
he
Aniston
meant.
on Apple TV?
So I have. It's a good show.
Did you watch the season with John Hamm?
I like.
Do you guys know it's really hot in here?
It is.
Okay.
It gets warmer
I don't
as we
think
go.
so. I'm wearing
A hoodie.
I think it's because you girls are drinking heavily.
Okay, we've had 2 sips. Relax.
No, I like the other one. What's the other one that was with Jeff Daniels?
Newsroom?
Newsroom. I
That
thought
was the
that
best.
was really good.
I never watched that.
Oh, it's a great show.
you
Really?
gotta watch
What's
that.
it on?
Olivia Munn.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's hot.
Yeah.
Aside from her being hot, the show is really good.
I mean, you
Jeff
don't
Daniels is
usually
great.
like.
He has an awesome rant.
His role is amazing.
Yes.
Who is
His
he?
rant is probably one of my most favorite monologues in
Yes.
almost any show that I've ever watched.
He's extremely pro-American, but he takes a very realist
Stance.
non-political, not like.
So it's like a national news organization because what
Yes.
I find, like if you're a local television producer, it's a very different ballgame
No,
than
this
if
was
you do national
the TV show is
You're
a
not.
national one.
We don't talk about like alligator mating season, like
Right.
like they do. You know what I mean? It's just a different.
Or the heat wave coming
Although,
through.
so you know what came over my head though earlier when you were mentioning about
Through or
like,
over?
It's usually
through,
over.
under, I don't know, who knows? Come on, Sarah, I speak French. This is my second language. ESL here. No, but you know what was one of the things that I thought of was like, it's got to be somewhat a little bit just pressing because like when something that caught my ear was that you mentioned like how you see like you saw 20 schools on lockdown today. Now, I get that you're hopefully exaggerating,
No.
Nope.
but
They could be on lockdown, but that means somebody
that might not mean anything,
Right,
but
somebody
it doesn't
at
mean
the
there's a school
7-Eleven
shooter or
2
something like
miles
that.
away.
Right.
Yeah.
But my point is that because of what you're doing, you're taking all of this information, filtering so Sarah and I only have to hear the stuff that it was really newsworthy.
On a national level.
On a national level, but it still means that there's a lot of crap out there that happened.
Beyond.
And
I mean, the amount
how
of
do you not
car
get depressed?
accidents
Yeah,
I see.
but that's what I'm saying. Like,
Oh, ask Sarah. I'm like fully
Have you
chomped.
met her? She is psycho about everything.
I'm the drone parent. Like I am
we don't have that kind of relationship. I don't see that side.
yeah. I am if I have to sleep at my house alone, every light and like probably at least 2 TVs are on.
Really?
Yes.
Trying to
yeah.
get those Nielsen ratings up.
Me and my mom.
Following in mom's footsteps.
Yeah. So I am. I
No,
am
she's
completely
hypersensitive to
But
it.
like
I think
I
she
have
just
seen the worst of the worst, right? So I have seen like I did the Cleveland kidnappings for Dr. Phil, and I was in Cleveland for like a solid year, like back and forth. While I was
I don't know what
pregnant,
those
while I
are,
was,
but I get
so
it.
these
When he had
3
the
I
girls,
can imagine.
the
The
3
girls
girls,
How do you know all this stuff?
because I paid attention to it and I'm a woman. It was the 3 girls that he had kidnapped and like chained in his basement and
For
used
20 years.
For 20 years and just like beat the crap out of them and raped them for 20 years.
and he like had people over at his house, but they were like chained upstairs. And one of them, he went searching for one of the girls with the friend because it was one of the friend's daughters. So
they had his baby. Like,
yeah, and so I've seen that. And I have been in
You
jail
both know
with
where I stand on the human trafficking thing.
where?
We just talked about brunch the other day.
I know.
I even played the little song from the movie.
Oh yeah.
You guys are making fun of me.
No, it is. It's true. That's what you said your charity would be, right?
I think it's a good charity to get behind. Now, so this is going to sound bad, but like, can we separate the children trafficking versus the human trafficking? Or no?
I don't understand. What's so
you
one
want
is
to cap
better
your
than the
your
other?
charity at an age?
He's like, well, if
obviously
you're 50 and
obviously
you're being
don't do that.
trafficked.
What I'm getting at is that my heart,
Strings get pulled harder.
a great way to say it, Sarah, get
For
pulled
Towards the
harder.
26-year-old
For an
beautiful
innocent
women.
Like
child.
with kids with cancer,
For the
or a
9-year-old that's being
9-year-old that's
trafficked,
being trafficked,
not the
and,
30-year-old.
like,
Yeah. So it goes back to also, I mean, and you think about like the child trafficking in so many different ways, right?
And just so it's on air and known, like, I don't have Sarah's passport. She's free to go.
She too is French. Canadian.
Only half. A halfie.
Happy. So you think about like a lot of these parents give their kids because they're like, they're going to go to America and have a better life. And that's still child trafficking, right? Like, so they bring them here, but then you don't know what's happening to them, where they're going, what's doing. And then you also have the child trafficking that's for the complete perverse.
Well, that's more what I was referring to.
Well, I think all of it, right? I mean, because you don't know, you're just like, go have a better life. But 9 times out of 10, they're not.
Right.
So, what's your charity going to be called?
Oh, I didn't necessarily. So I actually Googled it, I chat GPT to try to find out what was the 5 best ones, but I didn't recognize any of the names. But I don't really have the time to be like involved doing this. This is more like
Financial.
Sarah Project?
No. I'm not looking to start something. I'm happy to back something. I'm happy to go to a gala, go to an event, write a check.
A dinner.
A dinner. That's not what a gala is? No? Gala is like, it means more than that. I guess dinner would just
Do you
be like a
dance at a
smaller.
gala?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been to galas. We've
Yeah.
been where we live in Boca. There's galas everywhere.
It's like
There's a gala
it's
every
like
weekend
going
if you
to
wanna
like a
find
bat
something.
mitzvah, but for adults.
Oh, I've been.
Yeah.
Slightly different message, but
Man.
all right. Newsmax, congratulations.
Thank you.
Crushing it.
Ringing the bell.
Rang the bell earlier this year. You know, my mom did that too. That's very cool.
You know what?
We
I
both got
actually
to
did
do
not
it.
ring the bell. Our CEO rang the bell, but yes,
But
we
you were
on the
there
floor. Yes.
for
You were there.
the whole event.
Oh my God.
Were you up top or on the floor?
I was on the
On the
floor.
floor.
Got it. Okay.
So they put the on-air talent because it was a better picture, which makes
got it.
sense.
But still,
Listen,
you
I
were there
got it.
on the floor.
Sarah, you'd be on the floor too.
You know, the way that they do things, I don't know if you've ever been to one of these presidents. But
They'd actually have me right up top
well,
there.
the production that the New York Stock Exchange does is like unbelievable. Like you are walking up to the and your logo is all over the like because we went public before we rang the bell. They just
Yes.
give
Right.
you a day, you're going to do it.
I learned so many things when you went public.
It was just like, and then you see your logo is like everywhere, all over this massive building. And then you go in and they have put together a video. So we're all in, they give you breakfast before you go in. And they do this video of like, welcome, you're to the Giants, welcome to Wall Street, welcome to this, welcome to the New York Stock Exchange. And it's like this, and they like, drop the drape and then here's your logo. And then they walk you into, it's like this production that was unbelievable.
It looks very cool.
When are we going?
CNBC is like what I watch most of the time.
Mm-hmm. They're on
And-
the floor.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can actually get right to them. It seems pretty easy. Did I tell you I went to the Fox building last time we were in New
Who's
York?
Fox? I'm just kidding.
Well, no. And what's the representative? Harrison, who's one of their commentators?
On Fox?
Yeah.
Hannity?
No,
Harris Faulkner? It's a female or male?
no, male. It doesn't matter. I can't remember his name. Anyways, people don't look the same oftentimes in person as they do when you're used to seeing them on TV.
They're usually about probably a lot shorter. Like I have met some of our people in person. I was like, oh,
You're a midge.
wow.
I'm not sure that you can say that, Sarah. Ladies and gentlemen, there's the real Sarah Birnbaum.
At least you
And
got it.
after that, that's a wrap. We've been shut down.
That's what's going viral.
Yes, little people.
It's a great clip.
But-
Will be.
Yes.
Little people.
All right.
that is-
Well, awesome. Erin, we wish you all the best of luck. I'll see you at brunch next weekend. And thanks so much for listening, everybody.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, that's enough whining for one day. We are so happy that you could join us today on Stop Whining About Real Estate. So please, not only listen, but subscribe, follow us, download, share, and if you're feeling it, give us a 5-star review. Hey, and if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email stopwhining@choicemortgage.com. Thanks so much.